Oh, there we are, medals. That's me. That's me with a medal, and there's Tom with medals. I brought a box to show you and to prove to you that I'm the only guy in the UK that got a gold and a bronze for the same display in the same show. And there they are. 2001, and I'll tell you all about that. It was one of my first displays, because a long time ago, 2001, and I cobbled the whole thing together, the whole display. They'd given me too small, they'd given me a 10 foot and I needed a 15 or something like that. So I used a lot of bread trays to build up one side and give myself some height and so on and so forth. And so it started off in a bad way, but I got the thing up. It doesn't sound related now, but it is, I can tell you. I was weeping in one eye because I'd stuck a bamboo stick in my eye the previous day at the nursery. And so every now and again, my eye was weeping. I got this gold medal. And I was absolutely flabbergasted. I really, really was. And we had the press there, Evening Post, taking photos. Well done, Bryn. Oh, great, champion, really great. Bee's knees. And then about 3 o'clock, a lady came to me from the organisers and said, Mr. Bowles, we've given you the wrong medal. It should have been a bronze. Would you take the gold medal down and put the bronze up? I said, no. I said, I can't. I said, all day, people have been clapping, applauding, taking pictures, saying, well done, but you're saying they've been looking at shite. So I sat down on that seat, and my eye was weeping. I said, you're looking at a very unhappy man. So, as it happened, next to me there was a guy, John Tilsbury, and he used to do conifers, but he was the union rep. Anyway, he heard all this going on, and I watched her. She went right round to him, and she said, we've given him the wrong medal, and what should we do about it? And this chap was from Essex, and he said, well, you're going to shot yourself in the bleeding foot, ain't you? He said, you got to give him the medal for keeps, and the money for the gold, and then ask him to put the bronze up tomorrow. So she came back and said, would you do that? I said, yes. I said, that's absolutely fine. So the next day, I was putting the bronze up and taking the gold down, and I said to John, here, I said, do you reckon I could go and ask for the money for the bronze as well? Said, you've been pushing your luck there, mate. I got the gold because the chap's name's Charlie, and he used to do Bougainvilliers and Westdale nurseries. He was Westdale, and I'm West Hartree, and somebody in the office got it all mixed up, and Hartree, and he got a bronze. He'd been getting golds for years. What have I done? I got a bronze. But there we go. That's about. Now, tonight I'm going to talk to you about how to get a medal at a show, but I think I must explain it takes a long time to get the credibility to be invited up to the very large shows. And I think it must have taken about 7 years. First of all, going to car boot sales, then one-day sales on the corner of the street or the next village, the little village shows and so on. And then you work your way up to local big shows like the Bath and West, or the Amateur Gardening Show, or the Froome Cheese Show. And you get medals there, but you're judged on a very parochial, very local level, because the RHS rules really are top dollar right throughout the whole world. And by earning your stripes, as it were, as you go from the small local shows up to Amateur Gardening Show or the Bath and West Show, then when you start getting gold and silver medals there, then you can apply to the RHS, and they'll say, what's your history? What kind of things do you grow? Is it all your own product? And so on and so forth. And very cautiously, they will allow you to keep applying, and then once you've got a decent bundle of medals under your wing, then they say, right, you can come up, but we'll only give you a small display size. We're not going to give you anything massive to do because we don't know who you are. So the first thing I'm going to do tonight is, we'll go on to the first slide here, talk about the types of display that there are. Now what you're looking at there is a wall display. That there is the Amateur Gardening Show, Shepton Mallet, about 10 or 12 years ago. That's a wall display, and there are certain things you must do to prepare a wall stand which are different to a garden display. Now that's at Hampton Court. Putting a show like that is different to the previous one, the different rules, modus operandi if you like. And then it's different again when you come to island sites. That's an island site there. That's at Harrogate, that's the shed. Anybody been to Harrogate show? Very, very good show. By the time I'd finished, I'd worked all the way up from carnations in plastic bags to doing Harrogate Spring and Autumn, Malvern Spring and Autumn, BBC Gardener's World, Hampton Court, Tatton Park, Shrewsbury, and many and so on. So I was racing around the countryside for about 25 weeks of the year, which was great for my wife because she didn't want to see the back of me anyway, and every time she saw me, I brought money home, you know. So that's and that there is another type of display. That's a municipal display, very popular up north, especially in places like Harrogate, Shrewsbury, Shropshire, and so on, where the councils get involved. It's even up there, so lovely at Southport Show, where they even have the North Country brass bands. Yes, a lot of tradition up there. I love it. I like going up there. So when we start, we go into a tent or a marquee, and we're looking at that. If it's an island site, that's all you get. That's already been dressed by the RHS, because I think that's a Malvern tent. And that fabric is put on by the RHS because it's RHS colours. But then you still have to put black cloth or cover that base, because you'd be surprised. Once you've got your display on the top of that, you can still see the floor, if you know what I mean, if it's bright and wood coloured like that. So I always used to put a black finish to the base. Then this is all you get when you do a wall site that I've just shown you. This lady here, she's setting up for bonsai, but you just get the basic structure, the basic tiering, and you have to bring all your own fabric, all your own safety pins and signs and so on. And it can take 2 or 3 days to do it all. That there, you saw the picture at Hampton Court, that is where we started. Just a piece of grass like that. And that's sitting there, that first pot, that is a Cercis canadensis forest pansy. Really lovely tree, that. So, let's go back to the first one. Now, you're doing a wall display. When I started out, I was going for the smaller ones, like I say, 10 feet. If you get more confident, have 15 feet. But the bigger you go, the more plants you have to get in there, the more display plants, and that's another thing. Display plants, like for instance the box there, or the large grass you see in the centre, they all take time and years to grow. You can go and get and buy these plants, but they're hugely expensive. I think the box actually cost me £50, so you can spend an awful lot of money buying display plants when you start. But if you've been going for so many years, you tend to grow specimen plants, especially for a show, put them to one side, look after them, and then you can take them out as and when you need them. But with a wall site, you're looking at 8 feet, and the base, where you see the grasses, and the front of that is round about 2'6", like the height of your worktop at home. And you have to fill up to 6 feet going backwards, and then up 7 or 8 feet at the back. Now, when you've got such a wall to fill, you need to have big striking plants, because every time a judge looks at your stand, he's walking towards it from the back of the hall or the entrance of a tent, and they say, we're going to go and mark all those displays down the wall, and they can see it at a distance. One judge did tell me at Harrogate, he said, what we do is, first of all, we give you 100%, and then we start walking towards the display, and we start ticking off faults that they see. Now this display here, you'll see it's terribly weak on the back. It doesn't have any fantastically strong structural plants in it. This isn't a gold winning display. It might look like to you, but it isn't. There are problems there. If I go on to the next slide, can you see that it's too open in the centre? And you really could do with a central plant there, but what I've done there, I only had 2 miscanthus grasses, and I put one to the left and one to the right, but I fell down on the height. Basically, that's my problem. But lower down, I think you can see they're spaced properly. That's another thing. You can't have too many items packed in close together, because it doesn't look natural. You have to try and keep it open, airy-fairy, and spread throughout the display. But the problem is, if you want to keep it open, the risk is you show your pots, and they don't like to see pots at all. You've got to hide all your pots. But you bring them too close together, and it's too tight. So there's always a balance of what you can do to get the best effect. Here's a corner of one of the displays. And why I've shown this one is that the plants you see there all enjoy the same sort of environment. They like it dry, they like it sunny, they like to stand on their own, they don't like to be crowded out with other plants. And you've got the Eryngium plain and blauwcap, Pennisetum villosum, and then you've got Gaillardia there. And as you can see the labels, they're very, very important when it comes to judging, because the judges, they want to see a label for everything. They want to see them uniformly displayed, the same size for every label. It has to have the Latin name, and if you're going to use them over and over, it's best to laminate them to make them waterproof and so on. You mustn't see the back of them because there's only sticky tape, gaffer tape on the back of those pea sticks, and so it must present forward. You must be able to read those labels from 6 feet away, so you should be 2 meters away and saying, have I got that right? Is the lettering the right size? And as far as the correct naming of your plants, you need a book like this. You all know this book, I suppose, the RHS Plant Finder. You can borrow it from libraries, which is a lot cheaper than paying, I think, £15 for the book. But as a business, we had to have that. But in this book is every nursery in the UK and every plant that's grown in the UK. And so you just look at the plant and it'll tell you where you can get it. But more importantly, every plant has the correct Latin name, or name of the species, or name of the variety, all in that book there. So that's the book you refer to when you're actually producing these labels. And the judges do like to see plants in an environment. If you put a wet level like a ligularia or a bog plant next to a dry loving echinacea, then they won't like it. I mean, you can get so far at the medals, but if it's a matter of a tie break between you and somebody else, and you've got damp plants sitting next to dry lovers, then they'll mark you down just that little bit and you become number 2 and they become number 1. So attention to detail with that. Now this looks like the same display, but it's not. It's just a blow up of the corner I've just shown you. Totally different display, but you see in the center now, I learnt my lesson and put a big display in the center. That's a grass called Eragrostis curvula, the African love grass. I don't know why it's called the African love grass, but it is. This again is a wall side. This is BBC Gardener's World, and I put these slides in for a couple of reasons. This doesn't have an upright back to it, although you have to use height to disguise the background you're working with there. But the main reason I brought this was to show you how horrible the lighting is in Birmingham. It's bright orange lighting, and I had one woman, a West Country nursery again, up there with me, and she said, that's all right, the lighting, if you're showing off South Devon cattle, but it ain't no good for plants, is it? So we tried to get it changed, but of course, no, it's ambient lighting. But the other thing about this kind of lighting is that it tends to drains all the colour out of your plants because it's there for a whole week. But when you take those plants home, all the colour's washed out of them. Also, because you're on a concrete floor, you can't water it liberally. You have to spot water, and you miss a lot of things. And so by the time you get that lot home, you've broken off flowers because you're fed up and you're getting it back in the lorry. And all of those display plants are so tired, you've got to leave them for 12 months before you can bring them out, because they don't reflower for the next show 2 weeks down the line. So at your nursery, if you've got 20 shows, then you've really got to have 20 different sets of display plants to go, because a judge will know if you used it at, what should we say, Harrogate, and then you come to Malvern 2 weeks later, the judge could probably be the same judge, but he would notice the tiredness that the plant looks like and say, all right, mark him down for that. So BBC Gardener's World, I didn't like doing that at all. Now, this is one I do like. To me, it's almost like a painting, really. This was when I did Exeter. I changed the back colouring because everybody else is black and it looks so funereal. I thought, let's take a risk. But I will tell you that the RHS are very dyed in the wool, and they don't like having any other colour than either RHS green, which is a dark green, or the black. But you can get away with different colours in different places. But I think that colour goes so well with the lithrum you see there and so on. It's really nice. I've got another one coming up here. Another look at that one. When you're doing a display like this, again, the Eragrostis is right in the centre there. Look at the front, because when they're judging, They're coming towards your stands. Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. And they can't see any pots. But then they start to look at the knee-high edge of it. And the RHS have rules saying you shouldn't use peat because it's a finite resource and so on. You can use wood chip and various other things, anything recyclable. But you're always looking for plants like the hosta, like the grasses, to tumble over the edge, to hide that edge, to give it a kind of an easy feel. It doesn't look all regimental and stiff. But that I like the colour scale of that one there. You all know the flowers that's in there, I suppose, do you? That's a lovely Philadelphus. Philadelphus Bellatoile, that one. Then you've got your Veronicas, you've got penstemons there. Astilbe's just here. Stachys, Macrantha, the purple there. So that's wall sites done with. Now we're starting on a little garden site at an RHS show. Now the RHS give you a little pod, like you can see behind Tom there that's standing there. That's your little shop. And you're given that space in front. Sometimes it's on the left, sometimes it's on the right. And it's 10 feet or 3 meters by 3 meters. And you have to fill that like a garden as well. You have to make sure when you're doing sites like this garden that the customer doesn't see any pots, like the judge doesn't see any pots. And so I built this wicker little fence. That little fencing I bought at a garden centre, and you put in one of those stays and screw a row of 6 or 8 along with it to give you that edge. But then on top of that, I've lined it all with a weed suppressant so that when I put the pots in, you can't see the pots through those railings. And you can also fill it, as we did. We used to do, fill it with newspaper. If you've got newspaper and you've got lots of pots all over the floor, if you fill it with newspaper and then you put wood chippings on the top, then you can get a flat surface. But you will get silly customers who'll put their hands in, or they'll lift things out. Oh, I want this one, so it drives you absolutely mad. But this is just outside the Daily Mail Pavilion at Hampton Court. But it's slightly different, as you see. You need height, and so I've got the height there in the far left-hand corner. But you don't have, as with a wall display, you have tall, then down and up to the centre and down again and up to the end. This, you have the height in the far corner and then you come down like a pyramid, basically, trying to edge it lower and lower as it comes to the corner and to the left corner and to the right corner. You've also got to try and keep your colours together, because reds and yellows and whites go better than reds and other colours. You know, if you've got your purples in with your yellows, it can look too bitty. As well, Mary Payne. Does anybody know Mary Payne? Yeah. Yes. And she, when she advises people on gardens, she says, for goodness sake, don't go buying one plant here and one plant there. It'll take an age to grow into anything special. And she said, I always call that spot planting. And so she said, I always use a rule, planting 3s, 5s and 7s. It's not cheap, but it does make you, because you can always make a triangle with 3s, 5s and 7s. And putting 3 together, within a year or 2, they've grown together and you've got a decent-sized clump. Little tip there. So putting the accent on the height is different for a garden site than it is for a wall site. There's a close-up there. You can see the labels. We've got Adenophyra here, the blue. Verbena has started. That's a short verbena. You've got Achilles, penstemons. That's a lovely Digitalis ferruginea, that's a rust-coloured one just coming out. This Agapanthus, it's a seedling I was given. I bought it off a display from a chap, and I forget the name. He's got the National Collection of Agapanthus. And at Hampton Court, on the day before the show starts, they have a preview day. And the rich and famous and the hoity-toity, they all get there, and the press and so on. And I had a newspaper come over to me from South Africa and said, in South Africa, he's not seen a blue like it. It really is a stunning blue, and I've got it in my garden now, but it was just one wild seedling that caught the attention. Achilles there, the yellow Achilles, Heleniums behind that, and then the Monarda in red at the top there on the back left. That's a lovely plant, lovely colours. Did you know that they make Earl Grey tea with bergamot, with Monarda? I think it's the flowers they use. And then the white, I got my height there with Hydrangea Annabelle. Absolutely lovely hydrangea. great big heads, 12 inches, 14 inches across. And then you've got Sidalcia, I think, the white in the front here. So that's a close-up there. There's a lady looking over the fence, but she's got her back to the pavilion, and down in front of that white gate, I've had to hide all the pots with, say, short, stubby plants, very bushy plants, so that it looks like a garden, so it looks natural. Yeah. So that's what that looks like there. And that's a finished product. Here we go. Now this one, this is Tanton Park. In the front there, anybody know what hydrangea that one is? Hydrangea quercifolia, because the leaves are oak-shaped. But I lost out on this one because when I got the judges back, they said, you cheated. And I said, how do you mean? And he said, you this whacking great hydrangea and took up all the space when you should have given it to much smaller plants. It's just totally out of place there. And I said, well, I take your point, but I brought it because I wanted to show it off. And the customers like it, but the RHS didn't, so I didn't get many points for that there. But you see how I've kept the oranges and the reds and the whites to one side, and on the far side on the back, the blues and the purples. All adds to give it a little bit of sense, you know? So that's a Tanton Park one there. Now this is one I want to talk about, this little story. A different display again. Miscanthus giganteus at the back, but then you've got Menarda again in the pink, the usual heleniums. These over here on the left, anybody know what those purple egg-shaped?
That's,
Go on. Allium, yeah. Sphaerocephalum, yeah, round-headed, yeah. And they don't have any foliage at all. So when you're dealing with those, you can see the pot, you can see the stem, you can see the floor. So you've got to somehow tickle things to hide all that. So I thought it'd be quite a nice idea to put that grass with them, but that didn't work either because that's all stems, and I must have just filled in the bottom with peat or something. I can't remember what I did do, but that's one of the problems you get. You get a lovely top, but absolutely nothing below it. The grass coming along the side here, that's Stipa tenuissima, the touchy-feely grass. Erigeron carvinskianus, that little daisy, a very useful daisy, that's in a bucket in the corner here. And then you've got Nephophia Nancy's red behind that, Eryngium blaucap, Scabious, chili black, the little black ones there, and so on. But this I want to talk to you about because, tell you a little story. People, as I say, they do like to put their hand in and fiddle with things. And, that's lovely, isn't it? And lift things out and ruin it. And when you think you've been putting that together over 2 days, and say, for instance, on your yellow achillea, it's not tall enough. So you get some empty pots and you turn them upside down and put it onto a pot. And it's still not tall enough. So then you've got to get 3 pots upside down, put another pot on top, and then balance another one on top of that. So you can understand when people are fiddling about, the whole thing can collapse in 5 minutes. So this little sign here, the green sign, I did this on in RHS colours, white on green. And if I can remember what it says word for word, it says, please be aware that this display must look its best at the end of the show as it did at the beginning. Putting your hand in and taking things out or messing up the display is a spanking matter. If you're happy with that arrangement, I'll be round next Tuesday. But you see, it must have been judged by the RHS because they didn't say anything, but I didn't get any medals. But they probably thought, cheeky bugger. It's the other story, of course. Lovely story. A Liverpool lady, because Tanton Park have been a lot of Liverpool people up there. It's where all footballers live, isn't it? Alderley Edge up around there. But they've all got Liverpool accents. And one lady came in and she couldn't say Nephophia. And she said, have you got any of those F-ophias out the front? And that's the end result there, miscanthus. Now with this one, you see, there's a paling between me and the guy next door, so I didn't need to worry about being viewed from the left-hand side. So I only had the front and side to worry about there. And this is where we start, as I say, with an island site inside a marquee or inside a tent. Now, when you're starting out, working your way up the ladder, it's not a good thing to decide to have an island site. The very first time I went to Harrogate, I did a minimalist one. I thought, well, let's be totally different. And I wish I hadn't, because everybody started, Bryn, you're going to put some plants in there soon? I said, what is it? But the judges said to me at the end, I didn't get a medal at all. And they said, what were you selling? Was it wood or chippings or concrete? I said, I'm awfully sorry. And one of the other exhibitors said, well, if you do this again in the autumn, you're out. You're going to get 2 strikes and you're out. So I wrote a letter and I said, I really am awfully sorry. I've learnt my lesson. Can I come back in the autumn? And they said, okay, just give you one more try. And strangely enough, we did go back and we got a gold on the first attempt. We really did. So that was it from then on. I was able to do the spring and then the autumn, but do island sites. But again, you start, you see, with that, with a black covering, which hides the floor. You start in the centre, you get your height. That is Achillea grandiflora. That's the tallest thing I had at the time, but that went up in the centre. And there's my Eragrostis. As you walk around, every time you put a plant on, to look at the aspect of it, to make sure it's coming down at the right speed and so on, and that it matches in with other plants. I thought that was a good display when I did it. I think this is Bath and West again. It's got Naphis, yes. But can anybody tell me what jumps out at them as a problem with that? It's this corner, isn't it? It's this corner. I don't know why I didn't spot it at the time, but everything is up in the air, basically. With the middle one there, that truly is a pink haze on the grass. It's only an annual, but it's called Eragrostis aeroides, like the air grass, you know. Now then, this is a display I did at Harrogate. One year, Harrogate said, look, instead of having used the usual display, the walls and the islands and so on, why don't we have a competition to find out who can do the most imaginative display. So they gave us the project of doing a display which gave the impression of a holiday resort, but you mustn't tell the customer what it is. So you've got to suggest where the holiday destination is just by your display. So I thought of the Norfolk Broads, and I had this little thing made for me. But I didn't win. The person who won it had a piano, if I remember, and they'd put heuchers inside it, and Vienna was their destination. But I called that narrowboat the Narrowgate Visitor, and you can see on the top there, I even had washing up bowls painted with the roses and castles, and I'm dressed up as a bargee. Not an Indian bargee, but a cold bargee, you know. They don't mind you showing your pots if the pot is decorative like that. So a lot of displays will do plants just in pots. They don't get many medals because it's the easy way out. But as long as you make the pot decorative, then you're allowed to get away with it. Now the next form of display is the council displays, very, very popular at North. And isn't that a lovely one? That's Tatton Park. It's a ball that's been thrown to the wickets, and even the little bales have been supported up on. But a lot of work has gone in there. And that one there, that is, I don't know what that's spilling out, but I know I've got some here. That's a lock gate there, you see. Canals, waterways, all bedding plants around there. I don't know what that is, but I did take a picture of it. Some sort of Punch and Judy, don't you? Very, very clever. I don't know whether that's the McDonald's one, but again, a lot of work, a lot of effort goes in there. They don't get any money for it, it's just kudos, and we were the best, we were the best display, whatever. That's not a display, but it's quite interesting, the kind of things you could buy there. There we go, that's a little butterfly there. Oh, I will show you. The highest I got at an RHS show is silver, Hampton Court. And the reason I didn't get a silver gilt, which is the next level up, was one of the judges came and said I was marked down because I had Artemisia Powys Castle spelt incorrectly. I spelt it P-O-W-Y-S, and they wanted me to spell it P-O-W-I-S. And so I lost marks on that. But that was the last time I went into an RHS 10. These are a water garden merit. I'm able to use those. If I was using a plant that the RHS considers as garden worthy, they give it the AGM, the Award of Garden Merit. And if you have a plant like that, they do like you to put that on your label so that people know that it's worthwhile going for. These are just some pictures of outdoor gardens that other people do. Again, thousands of pounds they spend to go there and to get these because don't forget, every time you look at one of these, remember it, a week previous was just level grass. Build all that. I wouldn't say in a week, they probably went a month or so before to start doing it, but they have got a limited time. That's Tatton Park again. There's a pretty one there. But that mound would have been made, handmade, with bucket loads and whatever else. Now this is a nice one. I've got 3 slides of this. Stipa tenuissima. Behind that I think you've got Achillea, some sort of a beige Achillea. Then I think you've got Echinacea white swan there. The Heleniums, which one's wall trout or something. Then you've got Calamagrostis Carl Forster at the back there. And I think that might be the grass behind Stipa arundinacea, perhaps. There we go again. Different form of, oh yes, that's Arts Pride on the right there, on the corner. That was very, very popular, but somebody at the originator's nursery either destroyed or let go the actual plant. You can't get that plant anymore. You can't get Arts Pride. They brought better versions on because it wasn't terribly hardy, but they were selling for £14, £15 per plant at Hampton Court. This yellow one is another Echinacea. I forget the name of it now. But there's also a green one called Green Wizard, which is nice. But that's a garden put there just to do mass planting. Again, I never used to ask the price of these things. If you have to ask the price, you can't afford them, I think. But you see, again, attention to detail here, all that lavender, that's got to be grown. And for the shows have got a set date. Nature hasn't got a set date. Your things might flower this week, it might be 5 days later than last year, a week later because of the weather. And so we use the tunnels to bring things on and get them 3 or 4 weeks ahead of the normal flowering period. That's a nice little one there. So in about 15 minutes, there's going to be tea and cakes. This is Hampton Court. Well, no cakes? Oh, well, it's a good job I came for just the applause then, isn't it, really? That's Hampton Court. That's what they call the long water, isn't it? There's a lovely story about this. This is coming into the evening of the press day, the day before the show. And if you're a nursery, you're allowed to come to this function because they have jazz players and they have pins and strawberries and all that sort of thing, but on that side of the river. If you're a nursery, you've got to be on this side of the river. You're not allowed to mingle. They ask you to stay with your stand, so all these people, these hooray Henrys coming around, and they'd get drunk and they'd throw their champagne glasses in your display and ruin it, or they'd pinch one out of there and say, oh, daffers, look at his eye just peeked out of it. And you're wandering around. But that's one of these shows. I was walking towards my pitch on this side of the water, group of friends there, and I was carrying some drinks, and this guy, as I say, it's press day, so there's a lot of actors and press people and all sorts of people. And the guy walked past me like this and stopped and looked at me, and I just carried on walking. And he did this 2 or 3 times. And then he came up to me and said, excuse me, he's American. He said, are you John Hurt? I said, no. I said, I'm somebody completely different. And when I got back to where I was sitting with the others and I told them, they said, more like John Cleese than John Hurt, really. But when I came home, I told my wife, and I said, the terrible thing is, you get to the age of 55 and you think you're good looking, but somebody walks by and tells you you look like an elephant man. It's not a good idea, really.